Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. So glad to be with him today. Just waiting for others to show up in the Zoom meeting, but Rabbi Goldberg's here, so let's just jump right in and say hello to the Rabbi. Shalom, Rabbi Goldberg. So good to be with you. How's everything in Jerusalem? And I'm glad to hear you're getting over your cold.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Hope everything is fine and everything is well with everybody. We are feeling this week much better, and cold, cold. We'll manage with the cold also. Fair enough. I hope everything is fine. All over the world. It's especially today. It's an interesting day.
We're warm in Canada. We're warmer than usual. We've been breaking records here in British Columbia.
Oh, we have a say in Israel that we have more than 1 billion people who are praying today to a Jewish kid that died 2,000 years ago, but they still don't believe that we were here before the Palestinians that came here only in the last few hundred years. So this is the situation where we are, but it's okay. As I said, it's a long one, but we will win it, and it's not only for us. Just one note about the war that we have in Gaza. This is only the first stage, but they found enormous amount of weapons that came from China. Again, they found there in Gaza enormous amount of weapons that came from China. But it's a real weapon. Now, it's not something that, by the way, a bit enormous amount. It's something incredible amount, more than the people that they have. And
Is that coming through Iran or is that direct from China? Who knows, right?
I don't know. I don't know. It's but the meaning of this is that we have, as we said more than once, we said it, that we have Iran, China, um, Russia, and South Korea. All those four are together with the Hamas. And not only the Hamas, but also there. And now we have also a lot of documentation that we took from the houses there. By the way, there is no what we call civilians who are not connected. Okay, they found everything everywhere. They found in the schools, in the kindergarten, at the homes. They found at the homes, with the baby rooms. Yeah, the baby is sitting
Nursery,
in,
yeah, a nursery, yeah.
and underneath the baby, there is also weapons, all sorts of hand grenades, whatever it is, everything, everywhere. Underneath the baby,
Yeah,
there is
that's their
also all
tactics
those
for sure.
amazing situation. But again, the most amazing news that we have, and another thing that was really, I will say, I was pleased that it happened. Not that it was published, not that it happened. It happened. I'm saying I was pleased. Can you hear me now? I said that I was pleased that it was published in the New York Times. They did a big research, and they showed, they exposed that the brutal rape, okay, woman rape, and happened in few places, not in one place, in as a system to as a behavior. And by the way, not only against women's, but also against men. They did the rapes and everything else, and it was they showed that they did a very big research, and they showed that it was a very brutal way of behavior of the Arabs, of the Hamas, of those ISIS people against Jewish. And what I was pleased is to see that also the New York Times, that is not so favorite with Israel, let themselves to expose all of those things and to show them. And I think that this is
Yeah,
a new
so many
stage in
media
the world.
outlets are getting their material from the wrong side of the debate. That's for sure.
Exactly. So, again, something here is a bit more better. So, improving to the right way. Time, but we're managing. Okay, till now, this is the only thing I wanted to speak about the war. I prefer to learn a bit more with the things that we have learning about Genesis, and I said that we're going to learn something from the Parsha, and it's a very essential thing, and it's also going to close one of the issues that we started lately, also, but it's related. And with your permission, I want to share the screen and to buyers, good to see you. Want to share the screen and let's start learn. Let's read from the parsha. I think it will help us. Not this one, not this one. Okay, I need to open the parsha. Sorry, I've opened a lot of things, so we will be able to jump very fast. In our parsha, one of the things that we have is that Jacob would like to bless his kids. Now, it's a bit more, I will say, it's a bit more than a blessing. He wants to do something else. He wants to tell them in prophecy what will happen in the end of the days. So let's read it for a moment and let's see what's happening. Okay? Please read verse number 1.
All
And
right, from Genesis chapter 49, verse 1, Jacob called for his sons and said, Gather, and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. Gather and listen, sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my strength, and the first of my might. You should have been superior in rank and superior in power. Scroll
and
down.
it's
Yeah, verse
continuing
4.
on. It's continuing on. No, we don't need to say all the verses. We can read it. Basically, it's going on and going on. And if you read the parsha, that we spread over this week, it's a very short message as usual that Rabbi Sherki is speaking in Hebrew, and we translating it to a lot of languages. Um, Basically, instead of telling them what will happen in the end of days, basically what Jacob is doing, he's describing each one of them. He's saying in each one of his kids what is his characterism, and then he is deciding who is going to be the leader of the tribes. Judah is going to be the leader of the tribes. Also, Joseph have some sort of a role there, and everybody have, I will say, the day that he is arising, but each one of them have different characterism. But the most important thing that he started with, that he said to them, gather together and I'll tell you what will happen to you at the end of the days. This prophecy vanished. Vanished. He's not saying anything about the end of the days. He's not saying a word about the end of the days. The only thing that is happening also, if when we're reading it, very carefully, there is in one place that he's also praying a bit. Okay, he's saying a lot, he's describing a lot of things here in this chapter. You can read it after that. We don't have enough time for reading everything. But let's read for a moment verses 16, 17, and 18 about Dan, please.
16. Dan will avenge his people like one, the tribes of Israel. Dan will be a serpent on the road, a viper on the path, which bites the horse's heels, so its riders fall backwards. 18. For your salvation I hope, O Lord. 19. As for
no, enough. I wanted to show here. First of all, it is speaking about Simpson. How do you call it in English? Samson. The judge that was
Samson.
being Samson, the judge that was being, they took his eyes outside and they showed him, and then Samson is praying, help me, just this time, and then he's killing a lot of people. But you see here suddenly inside the blessings, Jacob, is suddenly praying for your salvation. I hope, oh Lord, this is a prayer. I hope, he's saying here some sort of a prayer. So our sages are saying that he thought that Samsung is going to be the Messiah, and when he see that they're killing him in Gaza, so he is praying. But it's a bit related to our days that Gaza is giving us a very hard time, very tough time. It's not easy. We never had an easy time with Gaza. We need to know that. We need to remember that. But all of this, I will say, chapter is not describing what will happen at the end of the days. Instead of that, it is describing each one of the kids in his, I will say, uniqueness of characterism. And because of that, the destiny and how he's going to help the Hebrew nation and who is going to be the king. Judah is going to be the king. Also, Joseph have something to become as a king and everything else. And the question is, what happened? What happened that Jacob wanted to teach or to tell them, okay, what will happen in the end of the days? That even though he is asking them to gather together and to listen, he doesn't have anything to say. So let's look for a moment on Rashi. Please read Rashi for this thing. And he's bringing it from the Midrash, but you don't need to read it. Yeah, this is enough to read this.
Okay,
Please.
from verse 1, Rashi says, "And I will tell you, etc." He attempted to reveal the end, but the Shekinah withdrew from him, so he began to say other things.
Very clear. Now, there is a why. Rashi is not bringing the why and everything else. So let's jump for a moment to the Gemara, and we will learn it, and we'll see something that is a bit new. I'll say it like that. Okay. Let's see it in Rashi. No, come on! I prepared everything. Here it is. Okay. Okay. This is a part that we need to read. This is from Psachim. Okay. If you want, I can send you the. Let me send here.
You want me to start reading here?
Just a moment. Let me send in the chat, so you can also after that give it to others. Exactly. Where is this resource? And now, yes, let's read it for a moment. As Rabbi Simpson said, Ben Lakish said, please.
Okay, it says, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said that it is written, "And Jacob called his sons and said, Gather around and I will tell you what will occur to you in the end of days," from Genesis 49:1.
This is exactly the verse that we're speaking about, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Jacob wanted to reveal to his sons when the complete redemption would arrive at the end of days, and he says, see Daniel 12:13. But the divine presence abandoned him, rendering him unable to prophesy. He said, "Perhaps the divine presence has abandoned me because, heaven forfend, one of my descendants is unfit, as was the case with my grandfather Abraham, from whom Ishmael emerged. And like my father Isaac, from whom Esau emerged, his sons said to him, Hear, Israel, our father, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. They said, just as there is only one God in your heart, so too there is only one in our hearts. At that moment, Jacob, our father, said in praise, Blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever, as all his children were righteous."
First of all, we're starting to see something that is behind the scenes. Okay, it's amazing. He's saying, okay, not everybody believes in one God. Maybe someone here believes in idolatry. Therefore, when everybody is together, the Shekhinah, the God presence, is not with us because someone here doesn't believe in God. This is what Jacob thought to himself. And they are all responding to him, saying to him, "Oh, Israel, listen to us. God, your God is also our God. We are all together in this thing." Jacob is also answering something, okay, in this part, because you know what? Let's read for a moment the continuous, and then we'll come back to the main part of this thing. This is a part of the continuous, please. Please read this.
The rabbi said, "What should we do?" Shall we recite this verse? But Moses, our teacher, did not say it in the Torah as part of the Shema. Shall we not recite it? But Jacob said it. In order to resolve this dilemma, they established that this passage should be recited surreptitiously. Rabbi Yitzhak said that the school of Rabbi Ami said, this is analogous to the daughter of a king who smelled the fragrance of the dried spices stuck to the bottom of the pot and craved to eat them. What can she do? If she tells her servants to give it to her, she will be disgraced, as the dried spices are a contemptible food. However, if she does not say she wants to eat them, she will endure suffering. Her servants began to bring them to her surreptitiously. One should conduct himself in a manner in similar cases of uncertainty.
We're speaking about the second verse that we're saying, and it is not written in the Torah on one side. On the other side, Jacob said it. So we're saying on one side, we're saying Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, okay? Or Israel, listen, your God is our God, and He's one God. On the other side, when we're continuing on and we're saying Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed, we're saying it very quietly. We're not saying it loud because it's not written in the Torah, but we have a tradition that Jacob said it. So, but this is the second part. It's related also to the prayer that we have. I won't go inside too much to this part. I want more to continue back to, or to go back to the main issue here. The main issue here is that Jacob, he is the first one that from him, no one is getting rejected. All of the Hebrew people are together. They are one unit who believe in one God, even though they are different people and they have different characterisms. And each one of them have a different destiny, different behavior. But inside, they have one God, the same one God. And this is the verse that Moses, a long time after that, almost 250 years after that, will say, okay, in Deuteronomy chapter 6, please read this. Chapter 6, verse 4.
Verse 4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one.
Who said it the first time? The kids of Israel. Listen, Israel, our father Israel, okay? The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. We are all believing the same one God, same one God together with you. But this verse was already being said by the kids of Jacob. So we have here already, we're starting to open a bit what's happening here. On one side, Jacob wants to say the future and something there went wrong, but not the thing that he wanted or that he thought. He thought that something went wrong by his kids getting apart from him with the belief that he has, that some of his kids don't believe in one God. And now they're all saying to him, we all believe in one God. So we need to understand what happened there, that he lost it. Okay, this is one thing that we need to understand. But I want to claim that this is not the first time that this verse is being said. And we have a very interesting, I will say, a very interesting midrash that this verse was said a few years before that, already by Israel himself. Now the kids are only quoting him back. And for that, we need to jump for a moment to another story or another episode that we have in Genesis. And this is a very hard one, a very very emotional one, very touching one. And the episode is when Jacob meets Joseph after 22 years that he didn't thought that he's alive. And think about this for a moment. He suddenly hears from he's hearing from his kids who came back from Egypt, and they're telling him, look, Joseph is alive. Not only is alive, he is the king master of all Egypt. And at the beginning, he didn't believe them. He said to them, you're just, saying to me a nonsense. But they showed him, they proved him, whatever it is was, that he suddenly believed them. And it says there, by the way, we need to see that also. It says there that the Shekhinah came back to Jacob, and then he believed them. This is what it says there. And think about this for a moment. Both of them didn't saw one each other. He loved him more than all of the other kids. He was crying about him for 22 years, and it's coming to the moment that he's going to see him. Okay, and please let's see for a moment. Um, Verse number 29. This is in chapter 46. Okay, verse number 29. Please read verse number 29.
29. And Joseph harnessed his chariot, and he went up to meet Israel his father, to Goshen. And he appeared to him, and he fell on his neck, and he wept on his neck for a long time.
Emotional, right? Who is not crying? Who is crying and who is not crying?
Joseph's crying, and Jacob's not crying.
Jacob is not crying. Jacob is not falling on his neck. The neck of Joseph. He is not weeping. Nothing. Nothing. Let's go back, if we will jump for a moment, to the meeting between Jacob and Esau after 22 years. Both of them cried one on each other. Okay. Here we see that Jacob is not crying. What is happening here? So let's see for a moment, Rashi. This is from, it's from, never mind, you don't need to read the exact the source, but you need to read this part, please.
And he wept on his neck for a long time. Is a Hebrew. It's an expression of profuse weeping, and likewise, for he will not place additional guilt on a man, from Job 34:23. An expression of profusion. He, Hashem, does not place upon him additional accusations over and above his sins. Here, too, he wept greatly and continuously, more than was usual. Jacob, however, neither fell on Joseph's neck nor kissed him. Our sages said that he was reciting the Shema.
Oh, well, it's few chapters before. We're speaking about few years before Jacob died. So the Shema is already here. Okay, so we have Shema. We have Shema now. First time that it's being mentioned in the Bible, it's only in Deuteronomy chapter 6. But now we've learned that Jacob is doing it by himself. When he have the meeting with Joseph, then we see that the kids of Jacob is saying to him also this word of Shema, and Moses is also saying it to the Hebrew people. So we have 3 times already this thing of Shema. For that, we need to understand what exactly is this verse and what exactly the verse is trying to tell us. And then we will manage to replace it in those 3 places and to understand why this is so essential verse for the Hebrew nation since the day of Jacob. And for that, I want to speak for a moment about something that is very known, and it is called the yin and yang thing. Okay, what is the yin and yang? We all know this one, right? Then it's not. I think it's not something new for people here in this room.
No,
But
yin and
basically,
yang symbol. No, yeah, there's a kind of a balance of light and dark. Yeah.
the balance of white and dark, right? Our world, our world is appeared to us always as 2 things, one compared to the other one. It's a we will ever always will say good and bad, dark and light. Um, we can go on, with a lot of things. Basically, there is a verse. It's, how do you call this thing in English? I don't know how you call it exactly in English. This is the Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes. Okay, Kohelet. In Kohelet, we have um, something very interesting that is being said with the most smartest person in the world. It is. Oh, come on. I lost it. Um, Oh, here it is. Please read verse number 14.
Number 15 or
14.
14. On a day of good, be among the good. On a day of adversity, ponder. God has made one corresponding to the other, to the end that man will find nothing after him.
But the most important part of this verse is God has made one corresponding to the other. Everything in this world, always in our world, have the opposite. Something is wet, something is not wet. Dry. Everything here, to, yes, everything here in this world have a corresponding to the other side. This is the yang and yang that we have. It's not only in the Far East. We have it also with ourselves. This is the way that we are learning things. This is the way that we're managing to adjust things. Always we can adjust things from the corresponding side of it. Only then we're managing to understand it in profound, in the right way. It starts already in chapter 3 of Genesis, where it says that God created the tree of good and bad. Okay, we have the corresponding of the good and bad. Again, it's the same thing. In the first day, we have the day and night, or we have the light and darkness. Everything all the time in our world is corresponding one to each other. This is how the world is appeared in front of the people of the world, okay, of us, along history. Also, the human being have two sides inside him. On one side, he is related to the nature laws. This is the body. On the other side, he is free from the nature law. This is the willpower that he have. And this is why we have the Paralympics games, to show how much we have a possibility of overcoming all the um, things that are stopping us, all the limits that we have from the body side, and we are managing to overcome it, because we have inside us also the corresponding of those two sides of the world. And because the world is like that, we might be mistaken to think that also we have two gods in this world. And this is one of the most important things that Jacob and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob after that is teaching us, that there's only one God. Not only that there's only one God who created the laws of nature, it's the same God who is overcoming and doing miracles from time to time to save his world. It's the same God. One of them we will call him Elohim, and one of them we will call him Yud Kei Vav Kei. Okay, so one of them, and this is what we're saying: Shema Yisrael, Hashem Eloheinu, Elohim. Okay, Hashem Echad. It's the same one, Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's the same God, and we have only one God in this world, and this is what Jacob is teaching us. I want to show this for a moment also. If we will go, you see here, we just spoke in chapter 46, if I remember correctly. Yes, we saw that Jacob is not crying. Instead of crying, he's saying Shema. In a moment, I will explain this. Okay, instead of crying, he's saying Shema. But I want to show few sentences before that. Okay, we have in 46, we have a very long list of all of the kids of Jacob who is going down to Egypt. And at the end of the end of the end, the Bible is summarizing the number of them. And the number of them is 70, 70. Okay? And it's going like that. The number is 70, just a moment. Okay? All the souls of the house of Jacob who came to Egypt was 70. Is what we see. But before that, there's a very interesting verse. And please read verse number 26, please.
26. All the souls coming to Egypt with Jacob, those descended from him, excluding the wives of Jacob's sons, all the souls were 66.
Now, in the translation, we're a bit losing it, but because we're saying here all the souls, and we're adding this last s, so it might seems that we have a lot of souls. The truth is that in the Hebrew, it says all the soul without the s was 66. Okay, call it nefesh, not nafshot, nefesh. Not if you want to say a lot of them, we need to add to this word if you know the s at the end. In Hebrew, it's vav taf. Never mind the exact letters. So here it's the translation is not 100%. Now I'm going to show this for a moment that you will see. Okay, um, it starts. Just a moment. Uh, just a moment. I found. Here it is. This part. Please read this part.
Okay, I found in Leviticus Rabbah 4:6, Esau had 6 souls in his family, and the text calls them the souls of his household from Genesis 36:6 in the plural because they worshipped many gods in his family, each his or her own deity. Jacob had 70 souls, but the text calls them in the singular because they all worshipped one God.
Wow. Okay, it's calling it in the Hebrew words. It's called in one in a singular soul because they all worship one God. And this is basically the main thing of the Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that we are all worshiping one God. But where is the most, I will say, highest place that we see the differentiation of this world that is getting separated and showing that there is not only one world, but there are two worlds. Okay, the main time of this is on the difference between the day and night, or the night and day. This is why we have, I will say, an obligation to call. Just a moment, here it is. Okay, you see this verse, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. When are we supposed to say those things? When is the mitzvah to say this verse? Please read verse number 7.
And you shall teach them to your sons, and speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up.
Why when you lie down and when you rise up? This is the exact differentiation between day and night and day. And when you moving, I will say, from the darkness to the light, or when you're moving from the light to the darkness, this is the time to say, but it's the same God who did the darkness and did the light. Now, this is only an expression, okay, of something much bigger. And the much bigger time is when someone is, God forbidden, dying or coming to birth in this world. Now, when someone is coming to birth in this world, he doesn't know how to speak, so we're not asking him to say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. But if you will look in the siddur that we have, and if you will look at the things that we have on the prayer side, you will see that when someone, God forbidden, is coming to the end of his days, and he's in the bed, having his last breath and things like that, we assisting him to say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We're helping him to say that he believes that this world and the world to come, this world where we are alive here in this appearance of life, and the world to come that we are in a different appearance of life, it's the same world with the same God. Even though in our eyes today we don't see this as the same world. And this is what happened to Jacob. What happened to Jacob? For Jacob, let's continue on. Let's go back to this part where we say that Jacob, however, okay, now they tell him he didn't kiss him and everything else. For Jacob, what happened with Joseph? Joseph came to alive after he died. Jacob was sure that Joseph died already. Now he sees Joseph. For him, Joseph just came alive, right? From nowhere, suddenly he came back to his life. At this point, Jacob is saying, Shema Yisrael. He's saying, no, this is exactly the time that we need to say Shema Yisrael. Just like when someone is, God forbid, dying, he's saying Shema Yisrael to say that it's the same God, even though those are two different worlds, appearing to us in the different worlds. So the same thing when someone is coming alive, we need to say Shema Israel. So for Joseph was alive all the time. He didn't have any problems with this. He knew that his father is alive. He knew that he is alive. Everything was okay. But for Jacob, it was a different of to say to himself, yes, this is one world, the world that Joseph was missing, and the world that Joseph is alive back. I'm saying Shema Israel to know that it's the same God, even though I didn't understood what's happening here in this um, era of the history of my own history for the last 22 years. Suddenly I'm understanding, and for me it's coming back to alive. So therefore I will say Shema Israel. I will say this thing, and this is also what's happening when Jacob is almost dying, okay, passing away. On the day that Jacob is almost passing away, no, I lost it. No, where it is? It's not here. No. Yes, on the day that Jacob is almost dying, in his last day, when he wants to say to his kids, okay, the blessing, or he wants to say to them to the end what will happen at the end of days, but at the end he's saying to them blessings. I didn't explain why he lost it. Okay, we didn't spoke about this. So also his kids are saying to him, look, we all believe in one God, and this is a time to say the Shema Israel, okay, that we believe in one God, even though it's a time that you're almost passing away from this world. By the way, for Moses, we have the same thing. Moses, this is a time that he's going away from this world. It's his end, and it is last. It is last. I'll call it it's his last word to the nation. This is a Deuteronomy that he is speaking, and because of that, he's supposed also to say this Shema Israel. He have also something else there, Moses. Okay, that don't think that what I gave you the Torah, that God didn't spoke about this in Genesis. He only spoke with you about giving you the land, the Hebrew land. But I'm giving you also the Torah. It's the same God. It's the same thing. All here, it's to have one unity. So Moses is trying also to say this with this thing. The most important thing is to understand that at the end of the days, and this is now we need to see Rashi for a moment. I think that we spoke about this Rashi for a very long time. But let's read for a moment Rashi here. Please, Dan, read the Rashi for this.
Verse 4, okay. The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. The Lord, who is now our God and not the God of other nations, he will be declared in the future the one God, as it is said, for then I will convert the peoples to a pure language that all of them call in the name of the Lord, from Zephaniah 3, verse 9. And it is also said, on that day will the Lord be one and his name one, Zechariah 14:9.
When Rashi is writing these things 700 years ago, 800 years ago, okay, he is living in France. There is also the crusade coming to Jerusalem, killing a lot of Hebrew people. And we don't see the unity of the world. We don't see the unity of God. But Rashi is saying to us, don't be afraid. There will come the day, and this is some sort of a call of action to us as the Hebrew people, that this is what we need to bring. We need to bring the unity of one God and the unity of the world, that everybody will call on the name of God. And this is now the mission that we have from this verse. To summarize this for a moment, I want to jump and to say again something that we read a few weeks ago about Rabbi Akiva, and now we will understand it in a much more profound way. When Rabbi Akiva is being captured because he was teaching Torah, and he said very nicely, that we like the fish who have their food or their breath under the water and they can't go out from the water, and the same thing, we are living from the Torah. But there is the last part, and please read this part, okay? That last time we read it very fast, but now it will suddenly will have another meaning of this thing that is also related with the life and death in a moment. Please.
Okay, the Gemara relates when they took Rabbi Akiva out to be executed, it was time for the recitation of the Shema, and they were raking his flesh with iron combs, and he was reciting Shema, thereby accepting upon himself the yoke of heaven. His students said to him, "Our teacher, even now as you suffer, you recite Shema." He said to them, "All my days I have been troubled by the verse, with all your soul." Meaning, even if God takes your soul, I said to myself, when will the opportunity be afforded me to fulfill this verse? Now that it has been afforded me, shall I not fulfill it? He prolonged his uttering of the word, one, until his soul left his body, as he uttered his final word, one. A voice descended from heaven and said, "Happy are you, Rabbi Akiva, that your soul left your body as you uttered one."
Now, it's amazing. This is another time that we find suddenly this verse that is being appeared in front of us in the history. Rabbi Akiva, we need to understand. Rabbi Akiva, first of all, in simply, again, we're speaking about the time of the death. Okay, before someone is getting death, Rabbi Akiva, he's saying this verse also. Fair enough. But it's more than that, because Rabbi Akiva also was on the time that the Hebrew people went to the exile. Okay, Rabbi Akiva saw the Temple Mount. He saw the destruction of the Temple Mount. We saw this last week. And he saw also that we're going out to the exile. So for the Hebrew people, we're moving from the daytime, where God is appeared in front of all of the world through the Hebrew people, to the exile, to the death time. So this is the time of saying Kriyat Shema, saying it's the same God. It's the same God on the night, just like of the exile, the night time, just like the same God on the daytime, where the Hebrew people in their land, in their homeland, and God is appeared in front of all of us in a very, a great manner with all the miracles and the Temple Mount. And this is why Rabbi Akiva is saying still there is one God. Even if his appearance once is in a full presency, or his appearance is when we're going out to the exile. Thank God we are today on the other side. We're on the other side of coming back to our homeland. And still, one of the most important things that we need to do is to recognize and to say this Shema Israel and to understand that it's the same God at the end of the exile where we had the Holocaust. And it's the same God that is helping us and assisting us to come back to our homeland and to restore our life here to a place
Right.
or
It's
to a
that moment of
situation.
revelation, right, Rabbi? That moment of revelation where the true purpose behind the darkness makes sense. It shows clarity, and the divine revelation of why maybe the darkness even exists, and it seems it all together into one clear, decipherable action of Hashem.
Exactly. And if I will summarize for a moment, okay, we saw not only that Joseph is the first one who is declaring, listen, Israel, my kids, okay, God is one, God is my God is one. God who created the nature, is God also that is above the nature. And he's saying it first of all, the first time when he's meeting Joseph, and then his kids will say this to him when he's almost dying, and they want to convince him that they are all believing in one God. And then Moses will quote it, and then Rabbi Akiva will say it, and it's also showing us that in the dual things that we see in this world are only one, coming from one God, even though we are experiencing the world in a dual way, but still it's one God. And it's also teaching us on the differences between day and night and day, that this is the opposite time that we are experiencing life. Still, it's one God. And it's also continuing with the issue of, I will say, the timing of the Hebrew nation between presence of God in a full appearance. This is the time of the Temple Mount, that God is a full appearance here. And also the time of the exile, that we are, in the night time of the Hebrew nation. It's still one God. This is Rabbi Akiva. It's also hinting for that. And now we're starting to understand the profound meaning of this verse, okay? That we are saying every day, twice a day, and we have it also in the Brit Olam, prayer book, that people can say it, because we saw that Rashi is telling us that not only we are going to understand that, but also the whole world is going to understand that. Where do we see that? And in a moment, I see that Rabbi Shmuel is already here, so I will give him also to speak. But in a moment, we have also in the Mishnah Torah, look, something amazing that with this I will finish. Okay, that to show and to explain this in the Mishnah Torah, in the beginning of the Mishnah Torah. Okay, the Rambam Mishnah Torah, really in the beginning, in the Sefer Hamada, and we have the Yesodei Torah. This is the first chapter. The first chapter that we have, chapter 1, you see? Chapter 1. I will take chapter 1. And he's saying here very important things. Here it is. The first thing that he's saying, please read the first halacha, please, Dan.
Okay, it says, the foundation of all foundations and the pillar of wisdom is to know that there is a primary being who brought into being all existence. All the beings of the heavens, the earth, and what is between them came into existence only from the truth of his being.
Okay, so we have God who created everything, and it's something that we need to learn. We need to learn, fair enough. Let's continue on a bit. Not too much, just a moment. And we see this, that the knowledge, again, please read this.
Yeah, the knowledge of this concept is a positive commandment as implied in Exodus 20, verse 2, I am God, your Lord.
Just a moment. He took down something. If you will continue this verse, I am God, your Lord, who took you out from Egypt. Why isn't he bringing the other part of the verse? Because here he's addressing not only the Hebrew people. If you will continue with the verse, people will think, oh, it's only for the Hebrew people. No. It's for all of the humankind. Let's go another interesting part, okay? Now, it's a long one. But let's read it. It's worth it, and then Rabbi Shmuel will speak. Okay, this is the end of the things that I'm going to say. Let's read Halacha 7, please.
Okay, 7. This
Bring
God
it.
is one. He is not two or more, but one, unified in a manner which surpasses any unity that is found in the world. I.e., he is not one in the manner of a general category which includes many individual entities, nor one in the way that the body is divided into different portions and dimensions. Rather, he is unified, and there exists no unity similar to his in this world. If there are many gods, they would have body and form, because like entities are separated from each other only through the circumstances associated with body and form. Were the creator to have a body and form, he would have limitation and definition, because it is impossible for a body not to be limited, and any entity which itself is limited and defined possesses only limited and defined power. Since our God, blessed be his name, possesses unlimited power, as evidenced by the continuous revolution of the sphere, we see that his power is not the power of a body. Since he is not a body, the circumstances associated with bodies that produce division and separation are not relevant to him. Therefore, it is impossible for him to be anything other than one. The knowledge of this concept...
Knowledge is learning, right? Please,
yeah.
The knowledge of this concept.
The knowledge of this concept fulfills the positive commandment as implied in Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, Israel, God is our Lord, God is one.
There's only one problem. You know what the problem is? Those two words, hear Israel, it's not written in the Rambam. The Maimonides is taking them out. Because here, see, Maimonides is saying, the mitzvah taseh shene'emar, Hashem Eloheinu, Hashem echad. The Maimonides, and it's also in the most exact, handwriting that we have, the Maimonides is not saying here Israel, because again, this is a halachic issue that is related to all of humankind. Like Rashi said, we need to learn, we need to understand that God is one. It's the same God who created the world, and it's the same God who is guiding the world and is above the creation of the world. And here, I don't know, because the Chabad, I don't want to go inside into this, why Chabad had added those two words. In the main part of the Maimonides, he's not putting those two words. Rabbi Shmuel will say that I'm saying the truth. Okay, you can see it. It's Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Just like he did before, and the same thing with Exodus, that he took out the reminder that it's related to Israel. It's not related to Israel. It's related to everybody. So now we're going one step ahead. In our days, the knowledge that God is one, it's related to all humankind to understand, to realize that God is one. And we learn today the source of that, of understanding that God is one, where it had appeared, why are we using it along history, and in what reasons or what times, and what is the meaning of this for us, also for today, with this Maimonides at the end, and it's related to all of the humankind. So with this, I'm going to stop the share, and Rabbi Shmuel will speak also here. Thank you very much for coming, Rabbi Shmuel. No, we can't hear you because you're unmuted. No,
yeah, I will be short because the time is getting a bit long. And I also have something later, but I agree, of course, with what Rabbi Goldberg is saying, that definitely Maimonides had in mind that the belief in the Almighty God is something which is universal by definition, and it is expected. Yet I do believe that there is indeed a dimension, which I imagine Rabbi Goldberg would agree with as well, that after the Jews had left Egypt, the revelation message for them is on a different sphere than it was before. Namely, that it is something which is a universal concept by definition and expected of mankind at large. But the Hebrews who had gone through the whole process, that's part of the difference which the rabbi mentioned today also about Joseph and his mission in Egypt. One of the difference between Joseph's mission and Judea's message. Joseph is more representative of what Maimonides is mentioning, to try to bring the voice of God to the universe as a whole, certainly to Noahides, but even to others. But I do certainly want to concede that there is a dimension that the Hebrews, who have all 613, that their outlook towards the concept of Hashem being the only God is on a totally different level, because to interpret all 613 within the oneness of God is a very challenging effort, and something which needs a lot of training. And it could very well be that the some 200 plus years that the Hebrews were in Egypt gave them that time to develop a relationship that ever since we were able to commit ourselves to the divine message. And this is not related to Moses only. It's something that belongs to all of us. The rabbi was mentioning from the end of Genesis in the book of Exodus, which we are starting this weekend in the synagogues. We learn about the parents of Moses without mentioning their names. The Bible mentions in Exodus 2 that a man of the Levites took and married a woman of the Levites, and she had a son, and she had basically was able to hide him for a couple of months because he was a premature baby, and he became a very, very special individual. His parents' name are not mentioned in this portion, but in the following week, next week, in Exodus 6, his father and mother's names are mentioned. Not only that, we also discover that he already had another brother and he had a sister. The sister we are aware of because the story brings that when he was put into the Nile River, his sister was looking after him, although we didn't mention her name yet. But when we get to the next week, we do mention the brother and sister. And most important, we mention the parents' names. Now, the Bible doesn't always mention names of every individual that it talks about. But even the name of the book of Exodus in Hebrew, Shmot, really essentially means names. And there are quite a detail of the names of the Hebrews who actually came to Egypt. And there's a reason why Moses' parents in their first encounter are not mentioned by name. A Jewish scholar from Prague, Maharal, had mentioned, Yuda Leib Lau, that Moses is a special person who could have been born to any parents from the tribe of Levi, but and therefore when he's first mentioned, they don't mention who his parents were. This is coming to say that anybody who puts his full effort, like the beautiful stories that Rabbi Goldberg is mentioning from Rabbi Akiva, of devoting themselves completely for the message of God, even when his life is in danger, anybody has the potential to be a type of a Moses if he's committed. And therefore, to mention the parents of Moses as if they were the condition which enabled him to be who he was, that's limiting the options of many people. When you write a story for children and you describe a well-known scholar or sage and you say, wow, he was such a great person when he was 3 years old, it doesn't impress me. Because to have somebody who was born a saint when he was from being a baby, I was certainly not in that direction then. It's a lot more colorful, a lot more meaningful to read stories about people who were brought up in a very regular manner and developed to be special people when they became adults. This way, you encourage mankind as a whole to make an effort to be closer to God. I think one of the beautiful things of the organization where Rabbi Goldberg, Rabbi Shirky, and others are involved in is that we are trying to give the potential to every individual to be close to God in their way. And that is conveyed even within the Hebrew population, that Maharal explains that that's why Moses' parents are not mentioned initially. When are they mentioned? When he's an 80-year-old person, becomes a leader of the people, and want to figure out what his CV was, what is his resume, how did he develop, where he actually went to. But it's not as if he couldn't have been born to other parents and would have also been successful. It is something that a person has to make his own choices. Sometimes when you live in a certain environment, of course, it's more conducive and easier to grow. But I would like to say to every one of you, as long as you are trying and striving to have that close connection with God and to commit yourself to what you're obliged in the 7 Noahide codes and in the general faith, as Maimonides and others explain, you should be very proud of yourselves getting closer that way and feel happy and grateful that you have joined the message of God that should be a source of an inspiration for you. And that's the unique element of every name that we have. One of the terrible things in the Holocaust period is where people became numbers. And when people are just counted by number and not by name, their identity is lost. Every person is special, created in the image of God, and should be proud and been granted an option to become an ethical person. And that's something that we have been trying for the last thousands of years to convey as a nation, although many countries and many anti-Semites fight against the humane direction of Judaism. We are proud to actually bring it forward and to show that even Moses, for example, was raised by an Egyptian woman whose daughter, the king's daughter, actually helped raise him. And there's even a debate whether the midwives which helped him being born, were they originally from the chosen people. Even that's not obvious. There are some who claim no, and that means that from any nation that you come, if you are kind, considerate, and looking after and have that sense of being an ethical person, you'll become chosen in your own way. Certainly, Moses' father-in-law wasn't born part of the Jewish faith. Neither was Moses' wife when she was first born. So everybody has the potential. Joseph tried to give us that clue in Egypt, and this continued to carry on, and is still relevant in our day and age. We have 8 billion people around the world today. If we can get to the reality that 3 or 4 billion of them at least will be decent, ethical, moral, proud, and be part of the image of God, we'll get much further than we are. I'd like to wish you all a wonderful week in that spirit.
Wow. Thank you, Rabbi Hirschler. Always a joy to hear from you. Excellent message in there today. And I think really it comes down to just understanding that making sense of the darkness that exists in the world, that oneness of Hashem allows us that potential to make sense of things. If not, some people get so caught up in bitterness and lost in this world, if you will, and that's always so sad to think or to see people that are going through pain or suffering or hurt in one way, shape, or form because they can't make sense of what's going on in life. And I've been reading this week, and Rabbi, am I okay to read this book? I've been reading Likutei Moharan by Rabbi Nachman, he went through the same section, and I was like, just mind blown with the notion of waking up to the reality that Hashem controls it all and is one, and nothing outside of his will exists.
Rabbi Nachman is one of the biggest sages that we have in the last generations, and he's speaking especially to the days of the modern life. He's speaking also on the days of the modern life. So he's speaking also on the, what do you call it today? איך אומרים את זה, הרב הרשלר?
השכלה.
לא רק ההשכלה, גם, ברח לי השם מהראש. He's speaking about nowadays, the days that, after the modern days also. Today we have a...
He already lived in the modern era, and he was exposed in his storytelling, in fact, which is quite impressive. He has the art and ability to present his faith in a very colorful way, which is easily obtainable to the modern listener. Something which
yes. So it's very again, it's one
extremely
of the
creative.
good resources that we have today, and it's okay. The things that you're reading, the books that you're taking, and you're reading them, it's good even to know the text itself, and even if you're not going very profound inside to the more and more meanings of those things, it's very important to know them, to knowledge them. It's the mindset of the Hebrew, I will say, Hebrew sages, Hebrew mindset that we have that is related also with the prophets along history and along, those are the great rabbis that we have. And it's important. I think it's important to know that. It's important to listen to those words, to listen to those messages, and to understand them, to grasp them, and also to adjust them, and if there are questions, to ask about them. So I think it's great what you're doing. Also done with this, and also by reading it by yourself, it's also okay. Are there any questions about the messages of tonight? Also, thank you, Rabbi Shmuel, for what you added. It's very important also. Not all of you together. Are there any questions on the line or something, Dan? I think that it's a new year now for the world, something like that.
Well, not
hours.
Here where I am, it's another 12 and a half hours away. Nothing too serious. We had a couple comments earlier. Our friend Barbara in Germany, she was asking, how should I behave when everyone calls me and wishes me a happy new year? How should I answer? She says she knows it's off the topic. I told her to be her positive and kind self, and there's nothing wrong with wishing well to anyone.
Exactly.
Just tell her in a nice mission, remain sober.
There you go,
Yeah,
Barbara.
also
Remain
the-
sober is always a good advice.
One
I
of the
actually
main
turned down
differences-
working a shift tonight because of a big celebration. I got asked to work security because they were lighting off a bunch of fireworks, and I said, no, thank you. And I passed on it just because it throws my schedule right off. But I didn't want to be in that environment, having to deal with a crowd of drunken people. And yeah. last year they had somebody cross the security lines and knock over the fireworks, the launcher for the fireworks, and it ended up in a disaster. Somebody got a little burned, and of course, that ends up into potential legal issues. And security's supposed to keep them out, and I didn't want to have to deal with that kind of crowd. So
fair enough. You're more than right. The only thing this year that people are supposed to be afraid is how much ISIS or Hamas will disturb those, I will say, fun time that people trying to do at this moment of night, because we saw what happened in the Nova celebration that we had in the 9th of October this year. 6th of October, sorry, this year, 7th of October, 7th of October this year. But if someone is blessing you for a good year, you need to say to them, thank you very much. We want to take the blessings with us. And we know that it's some sort of a schedule that people decided to call it as the beginning of the year. We know that the main part of the year where God is judging the nations and deciding what will happen to them in this year and everything else is Rosh Hashanah. And there is a different way to accept the beginning of the year by accepting accepting God to be the God of the world by blowing the shofar and all those things, and doing some repentance inside yourself, accepting God.
I think there's another dimension which I would add, and I'm serious about it, that the accepted part of the world considers tomorrow the beginning of a new fiscal and financial year. And I would, if somebody were to phone me, I'd say I'd wish him a successful year, that he will not suffer from poverty, and that he'll have work, and that people act in decency towards each other on a financial basis. It's one of the fundamental elements, which is a universal constant, of being honest in business. And since almost the entire financial world is based on the secular calendar, it's got a dimension which we need to upgrade as well. I see it that way in any event. A very good percentage of the Jewish law is dependent on decency and finance, by the way. A high percentage of it.
For sure. I've been reading in that Rabbi Nachman book, the way he tied all business to strife. The whole concept of business actually has the will of a buyer and a will of a seller, and they're at odds, and how business is at the heart of strife. Just the thought blew my mind. I've got lots of room to grow, that's for sure. Does anybody else in the group have any comments or questions they want to ask the rabbis? I see we got Nathan and Byers and Jacob. Anybody got anything they want to add or ask?
Yeah, me.
Go ahead, Byers.
I got one.
Yes, it's Byers one. Sorry, I'm in a bit of the dark, so my video does not display. I happened this week to have someone who wished me a happy new year. My response was quite like, you are a little bit too late, because my new year starts in September at Rosh Hashanah. And it actually gave me something like something to tell the person, like I follow the Jewish calendar instead of the Christian one, and I could see in the person's face that she was quite puzzled that I'm not into this worldly New Year thing, So, how do you share this as a with people who don't share the same belief, or without offending them, or without uh, causing them shock? Because I can see that once you say moving towards the Jewish side, people get very shocked, and it's like they don't try to convert me to this faith. Don't try. And I always tell them, listen, it's not my intention to convert you. I'm just sharing with you a little bit of what I believe.
Myself, I find it's best when you just quote the Torah, and this is why we study the Torah so that you're able to quote it. And I gave out a Brit Shalom book and a copy of a film yesterday to a 74-year-old man who stops to talk to me while I'm on duty at my job, and he went right home and read the book, came back in the afternoon to ask me some questions. And I found he ended up trying to divert the conversation. Well, that's a person's perspective, but I still believe. And I said, well, what does God have to say on the matter? And when it comes down to what does the Torah say? What is his position? And I ended up saying, that according to Torah definition, you can believe in idolatry, but it's still idolatry, right? It doesn't make it any different. I says,
Yes.
you can have your subjective opinion and your belief, and anybody can have their belief, but if you believe in idolatry, it's still idolatry, right? The question is who gets the definition, and I think our lesson today on Hashem being one and understanding the oneness, it kind of took him back a bit, and so being able to go to what does Almighty God say? What does the Torah stand for? What does it stand on? And what is it implying? And I find that that's the best way, because then you're not giving opinion, you're not giving a long story. You're only sharing what the Torah says. And in this Rabbi Nachman book I've been reading, the way he described it is that when the revelation of Torah goes forward, it causes them to find the contradictions in their own religion, and that's where that change begins, is when Hashem changes their mindset and they see the contradictions in their own religion, in their own materials. And so you and I can't push them to see the contradictions in it. That just causes argument and more strife. But when you stick to the Torah goes and does what it's works like a salve on the issue, and it legitimately causes them to search the issue in their current religion, and if they find the contradictions, they come to a awakening revelation that, oh, God said it, therefore, he's got the final authority on the question. So that's the way I approach it myself. But Rabbi, I'm sorry if you wanted to answer.
No.
Thank you, Dan.
It's okay.
Thank you for that.
You answered fine. No, the truth is, I need to go to finish. Jacob, you wanted to say last word before we? No, everything is fine. Excellent. Fair enough. So I think that we will close it for tonight. I'm wishing you all a very good financial new year. It's okay. With this, and a lot of blessings from Jerusalem, and Jerusalem still giving the blessings to the world. After all, even though we have a bit of a battle here, As I said, always we're going to win this, and we're going to win this together with all of the people who decided to go to the right side of the history. Today, it's much easier to decide the right side of the history. And just open your eyes. Blessings,
Yes.
everybody, and
Rabbi, are you
see you
okay
next
for
week.
next week? Or have you got
Yeah,
meetings?
hopefully yes. Hopefully yes. Yes, yes, yes. Why
Hopefully,
not?
yes. Okay.
Let's
So on that note,
fair
we're
enough.
tentatively hoping to do another live from Jerusalem next week. Hopefully, I don't know why our class didn't. Most of the class didn't show up. I mean, we didn't see our friends in the UK or my friend Angelica. I'm not sure.
Celebrating the new year or something.
Everybody's
It's okay.
busy. Yeah, maybe
The
away
new
seeing
financial
family.
year.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna sign out for today. So till next time, happy New Year to everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for the class. Thank you.